obviously after the fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, the PFL has recently come into a lot of exposure lately. A lot of people have been talking about the PFL. Now, the reason why the PFL has gotten a lot of traction is not just because of the fight between Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. They've also signed Jake Paul. And they've also got other fighters on their card like Kayla Harrison, who's this female MMA fighter that a lot of people have been talking about. The point that I'm trying to make is I think PFL might be in a power position in the next coming years in the world of MMA and sports, combat sports in general. What you need to know about the PFL is the PFL was kind of instrumental in Tyson Fury Francis Ngannou getting his fight against Tyson Fury, because the PFL, they're a MMA promotion that's actually backed by the Saudis. Now the Saudis were the one that put on the event between Francis Ngannou and Tyson Fury, and we saw, when you look at the production value of the actual show, they literally spared no expense. They literally spent as much money as they could to make it look amazing and incredible. So you can see that the amount of power that the PFL actually possess in this game. You can see the fact that they could put on a production that big, like it literally looked incredible. And I've seen loads of fights. Like I've seen fights in Vegas, I've seen fights in the UK, I've seen other fights in the US outside of Vegas, like Madison Square Garden. I've never seen a production that big. Like the pre-fight show before the fight even began was absolutely massive. So the point I'm trying to make is the PFL is backed by the Saudis, and the PFL has signed Jake Paul, who's one of the biggest names in boxing. I know haters love to hate, but you can't deny it. He's a pay-per-view draw in boxing. He's been on several pay-per-views. You got Francis Ngannou, who after his fight with Tyson Fury has now become a massive star. He was already a star before, but now he's become a mega star. Before he was a star, I know he wasn't making the massive pay-per-view sales and such, but when you're the UFC heavyweight champion and you've got power the way Francis Ngannou do, you do attract attention, and he already had attention on him. But the fact that after his performance against Tyson Fury, where in my opinion he beat him, and in a lot of people's opinion he beat him, and he completely embarrassed him, he's gone to the route of megastardom, and now that he's made a massive payday against Tyson Fury, like 10 million, he's going to be offered more paydays. So the point I'm trying to make is the PFL are in a power position. The fact that they're backed by the Saudis are funding them, right, and paying this astronomical amount of money to Francis Ngannou. The fact they've got Francis Ngannou, who's one of the biggest stars in combat sports at the moment, and the fact that they've got Jake Paul, who's one of the biggest stars in boxing, and the fact that they've got Kayla Harrison, who's this female MMA star who's won multiple tournaments in the PFL. I think the PFL could become a major power broker in the world of MMA in the future. Now, they've already got a big star in the UFC, from the UFC, which is Francis Ngannou. Now, if they can make another big fight with Francis Ngannou against an MMA fighter, let's say they get someone like John Jones, or they get someone like Deontay Wilder to fight in MMA, then I wouldn't say they've 100% made it, but they're certainly getting there. So my opinion is the PFL is going to grow in the next couple of years. The fact that they've got almost unlimited funds with the Saudis backing them, the fact that they've got Francis Ngannou, the fact that they've got Jake Paul, the fact that they've got Kayla Harrison, the fact that Francis Ngannou made the UFC look bad because after he left them, a lot of people are saying that Dana White fumbled the bag. All of this is happening, and it's all got to do with the fact that the PFL managed to take a massive risk and sign Francis Ngannou. So in my opinion is the PFL might become a major player in the world of MMA in the future. They already are a major player. Like they're talking about buying Bellator, so they are in a position of power at the moment. But I think they're going to become possibly more powerful. So that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think below. They're also seen by many fighters as an ethical choice. Like, let's be real. We know that the UFC got this reputation of underpaying fighters, not paying them what they're worth. Well, with the PFL regularly put on tournaments where fighters can walk away with £1 million payday. Now, £1 million payday in the UFC is unprecedented and unheard of unless you're a champion or unless you're a massive draw like a Nate Diaz. You're not going to get £1 million, but with a tournament set up, a fighter that's a relative nobody that nobody knows about could walk away with £1 million. So the PFL in general is seen as more of a fighters union focused promotion because they're willing to give away so much to the fighters. Like, look at the deal that they gave Francis Ngannou. The fact that he can fight in boxing, the fact that he's not restricted the way he is in the UFC, the fact that he's gonna make 8 figures in his MMA fight for the PFL, the fact that literally anyone that Francis Ngannou fights makes a £2 million guarantee. All of these reasons are why the PFL is seen as more ethical than the UFC and more pro fighter than the UFC. So for that reason, there may be many fighters that cross over to the PFL as opposed to stay with the UFC. The UFC's got some competition now. It's got one championships, and in my opinion, it's got the PFL, which is emerging as another one. I mean, let's be real. Francis Ngannou is seen as the baddest man on the planet, and who are they with? Who is he with? He's with the PFL. He's not with the UFC. The UFC is where he made his name. And let's be real. After he beat Tyson Fury up, he's made his name even more. But he's with the PFL. The PFL are the ones that have signed him. And obviously, Francis Ngannou has got plans to expand MMA in Africa as well, which is a huge market at this moment in time that's untapped. So with all of this untapped potential, I'm just saying, like, I'm not saying they're going to take over the UFC, but I think in the next coming decade or so, they could provide some stiff competition to the UFC. Definitely, just like one championship can. So that's just my opinion. Tell me what you think below. Do you think what I'm saying has got some credence and credibility to it, or do you not believe it? Tell me what you think below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace.